So NPR, though, put out an article, teachers fear chilling effects of Florida's Don't Say Gay law. Again, why do they care so much that they can't talk about sex with children? Hard to say, but let's look at a little bit of this. It's a bill that's drawn nationwide controversy, dubbed by opponents as the Don't Say Gay bill. Well, at least, they are saying it's dubbed by opponents as the Don't Say Gay bill. But they should just have, a big old fact check there saying, not true, you can say gay. President Biden called it hateful. Of course, President Biden, is against us not teaching or not talking about sex with children. I mean, you've seen how he is when it comes to, you see how he is when it comes to little children. It was ridiculed by the host of this year's Academy Awards because we care so much about them. On Monday, it became Florida's law when Governor DeSantis signed the Parental Rights and Education bill. Now, Florida teachers are wondering how the new law will affect them and their students. So over here, we will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not indoctrinations, DeSantis said during the bill signing in Spring Hill, Florida. Flanked by young children at Classical Presbyterian School, which is a charter school, will not be affected by the law. Well, no duh. It's a private school. Now, I don't know exactly why he did it there in particular, but oh well. I mean, it's a school. It's a school that apparently does well. Opponents of the law, DeSantis said, support sexualizing kids in kindergarten. They support injecting woke gender ideology into second grade classrooms. Yes, they do. We've already seen that they do. Teachers say students have other concerns. So, teacher right here. Her first graders aren't focused on sexual orientation, gender or identity. Their main concern, she says, is it snack time? Well, yes, that should be what their concern is. After all, Stefan says, teaching about sexual orientation, gender identity isn't part of the first grade curriculum, but talking about families is part of her curriculum. And some of her students may have two moms or two dads. It makes you wonder, she said, when I'm talking about families in my classroom, am I going to be violating this law because the children are having discussion about what their family looks like? No. No, you're not. The bill does not say there's a problem with that whatsoever. Nowhere in the bill. You can read the bill. It's only 7 pages. It's only 7 pages. There's no reason for it to be that complicated. There is nowhere in the bill that says you can't talk about that stuff. It just says it can't be part of the curriculum as a basis of it. So if they want to talk amongst themselves about what their family looks like and all that stuff, if a kid has a question about it, either the other kid can help answer, or you can say, that's a good question. You should talk to your parents about it. It's not very complicated of a response. What's next, she said. If they're going after this conversation now, where does it stop? Where does it stop? It stops when it's saying don't talk sex with children. That's it. I'm very fearful this law is just going to open it up for a lot more things and start being discriminated against. What are they worried next? We're going to end critical race theory for them? I mean, I wish. Some teachers label the law as a blatant attack on education. Because obviously this should be part of education. All right, so beyond kindergarten and third grade, the Florida law also says any instruction about sexual orientation or gender ideology at any grade has to be age appropriate or developmentally appropriate and according with state standards. Opponents say the law will effectively muzzle any discussion on sexual orientation or gender ideology out of fear. Under the law, parents can sue the school district if they believe the school is in violation. Honestly, I feel like it's just a blatant attack on education, says Georgie Botello, who has taught 8th grade American history for 19 years at Ocilla Middle School in rural Florida. Rural Florida. A lot of these bills are written by people who've never set foot in a public education classroom. Good. Let me say it again. Good. Because our public education system sucks. We do a terrible job. Kids are leaving school with no financial literacy, without any historical literacy, without any education on how to actually go out into the world and succeed. All right, they're not taught anything in this regard. They can't even change a damn tire. All right, public schools do a terrible job at educating children. For the most part, I learned more my first year in the workforce than I did in almost all my time in school. You know why? Because school didn't teach a damn thing. They really didn't. Sure, you say math, I learned math. Not really. I learned math from my parents, not really so much from the school. All right, when I had to learn long division and stuff like that, I went to my dad and to my mom and said, all right, I don't get this. Please help me. Right? It wasn't in school I learned most of this crap. It was at home with my parents, because fortunately I had good parents. Because the public school system, again, does not help children. It stifles their creativity. It tells them to fit inside a box. It says, yes, you will know this one particular fact about history, but you won't understand what that fact actually means, right? You'll say, well, what does the Constitution do? Well, it protects our rights. Okay, well, that's great. It protects our rights. How and why? And what does it mean when we say rights in the first place? Kids do not have any clue, because we're not teaching them actual history. We're teaching them how to check A, B, C, or D on a test. We aren't teaching them how to critically think. We aren't teaching them any of this stuff. So when they say, oh, well, you never set foot in a public education classroom, yeah, that's a positive, because people in the real world learn or know how to actually teach people. All right? People who actually, have to train others for part of a job have more education experience and credentials, in my opinion, than public school teachers who have been doing their job for years. And, I know there's a couple good teachers out there. I get it. But for the most part, public school system has utterly failed the children of this country. So good. They should not be part of the public school system. That's like asking a cop to fix the cops for the most part, right? Of course, it's... I checked myself out for corruption and found out there was none. Don't have people who are already part of the problem be part of the solution. All right, bring in new people. Under the new law, he wonders, will it be considered age appropriate to tell his kids that the Revolutionary War hero, the Prussian General Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben, is widely believed to have been openly gay? Okay, what relevancy does that have to the conversation on history? What relevancy does it have? If in a letter, maybe if you're reading his letters and he talks about his husband and you go, yeah, it turns out he was gay. I mean, sure, I guess. That's not really having a full conversation about it. But if you're saying, today we're not going to learn about John Adams. We're not going to learn about John Locke. We're not going to learn about any of Aristotle. We're not going to learn, well, I guess he was U.S. Was it U.S. History, or was it just history? But if he's a history teacher and general history, you should be learning Aristotle, Socrates, all this stuff. We're not going to learn about that. We're not going to learn about George Washington. We're not going to learn about John Adams. We're not going to learn about Thomas Jefferson. Instead, we're going to talk about this one Prussian general and about how he was widely believed to have been openly gay. That's really the important conversation here when it comes to history. Listen, if it comes up, it comes up, right? Like, no one really... I don't care. At 8th grade, yeah, I think you can say, yeah, so, yeah, you can tell here that apparently, he was actually gay. Really? Yeah. Now on to the next bit. Talk about what he did, not the fact he's gay, because really that doesn't pertain to history at all. It doesn't matter. When you look at history, when you look back in history, Patella says, there's clear examples of how these different groups that are being attacked today actually helped form our country. They are part of our story. Yeah. Listen, if only like 2% of the population is gay, then sure, at times they have helped, and they should be taught about, but not be taught about because they're gay. They should be taught about because they did something substantial. When you talk about what they did, you talk about what they did, and if you want to throw in a little bit of details here and there, by all means, I really don't care. But talk about what they did first. It's like the old difference of what's propaganda versus what's art. Well, when you do art for the sake of art and it contains a message, and that's art. When you have the message first before knowing what you're going to create, well, then that's more so propaganda. In this case, it's similar. When you're teaching history, when you're teaching about the events and happen to mention the fact that, hey, this person also turned out to be gay, then sure, you could say this is teaching history. When you sit there and say, now on to a great gay person in history, no, now you're pushing an ideology, not history. Right? You see kind of the difference here? So, if he's teaching history and it comes up, by all means, no one really cares. But for the most part, guess what? With them making up 2% of the population, they really didn't actually have that big of an impact. I hate to say it. I don't really hate to say it that much. But I really just... It's not very common. If it comes up, it comes up. It's as simple as that. Patel believes lessons like these can empower LGBTQ students, weaving them into America's history. Why is them being gay the biggest factor in their life? Why? Why is being gay the biggest factor in their life? How is that weaving them into Americans' history? How about the fact there are descendants? They are the descendants of people who came to this country searching for freedom. How is that not weaving them into America's history? Who cares if you're gay? It doesn't matter. As a Mexican American, he says he knows how important this kind of representation is. Growing up, he didn't see himself in history books. So you looked at race. You care that much about your race. Listen, if I moved over to Japan, I'm not expecting to see a bunch of white people in their history books. Right? I'm not. And guess what? America is a country founded by Europeans. And up till recently, the country was about like 90% white. It's been a recent change in demographics. And I'm not going to come here and say it's a bad thing or a good thing. I don't think it really matters that much. I say all that really matters is the values for which people are espousing. Listen, if you're coming from Mexico and you believe that, hey, we should focus on individual liberties and freedoms, then I'll shake your hand and call you a fellow American like that. If you come from France and say, no, we need to be more like communists, then I'm going to say, get the out. I don't care what your race is. I don't care what you look like. I care about what you believe. This person apparently clearly cares more about what people look like more than what they believe. I know that I have to think a little harder when I navigate these subjects next year, and that this bill is going to be in effect, he says. Again, the bill doesn't even affect really 8th grade for the most part, so I don't know why he's that concerned. If a client becomes too restrictive, Patel says he might have to consider retiring. Oh, that would be so terrible. So terrible. We'll lose a great teacher who just wants to talk about all the gay people in history. Like it actually matters. If I feel like I'm going to be watched by Big Brother all the time, he says, like, what's the point? You work for the government. You're a government employee. Listen, I hate Big Brother. I hate Big Brother. I hate people looking over your shoulder. All right, I'm the kind of person who says, come back with a warrant. I don't give a damn. All right, I don't want you in my house. I'm not doing anything illegal here. I still don't want you fucking here. I don't want you searching my car. I don't want you searching me. Not because I have anything to hide, because I really don't. I really am a very simple, kind of laid-back kind of person. I really don't do anything that's really considered, I think, really that bad. I know I don't really do anything really illegal as far as I know, so I really have nothing to really hide, but I don't like people searching through my shit regardless. But you work for the government. Sorry, they're going to look at what you're doing. All right, when I'm in an office, my boss is going to look at what I'm doing. If I'm making phone calls to clients, my boss is going to occasionally check on those phone calls to make sure I'm not being a total fuck up, right? It's not Big Brother at that point. It's just you being monitored as part of your job. That's just how your job works. So then we have this teacher here who I think is actually a gay man himself. Yep, as a gay man, he says, it tells him that his LGBTQ students, that there's something inappropriate about them. No, because their identity is taboo or somehow dirty. Listen, as a straight guy, I think it's a little gross, but I really don't care. I mean, it's no more gross than a straight guy with a foot fetish, in my opinion, I guess. Like, it's all kind of weird to me. But that's not all in the bill. Straight people can't talk about sex with these children. Straight people can't. Make that a big point. Straight people can't talk about. Kraken points to a 2021 survey that from the Trevor Project, a nonprofit suicide prevention organization for LGBTQ youths, which found 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously consider attempting suicide in the past year. Well, when you got the T's mixed in there, that's going to up that percent. It's terrible. It's awful. It really is. No one should ever, 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 ever be attempting to do that, right? That is an awful, 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 terrible, terrible thing, but it's worth recognizing that people who are in the T's have almost a 50% rate of it, of actually doing it, which means probably a higher percentage of that think about it. So you have, of course, the normal rates probably among the LGB portion of it, and you have the T's really skewing that number pretty high, right? Because if about 50% of them actually do it, how many of them are actually just thinking about it, right? So, I mean, that's probably where you're getting the majority of that number from, to be perfectly honest. I can tell you, as someone who grew up as a gay boy, I don't know why that's funny. I don't know why I found that funny. Oh, God. I'm a 28-year-old man laughing at him calling himself a gay boy. how real that statistic is, he says, and how dangerous it is that these Republican legislators are playing with the safety of our vulnerable youths. They're not. It's not in the bill. Read the bill. You're a teacher, and you won't read 7 pages. You won't read 7 pages. It's amazing. Kraken said teachers will... that's a cool name, at least McCracken. Says teachers... I just realized he's gay and his name is McCracken. That's kind of funny. The teachers he's talked to will say with new law, or say the new law won't silence them. They're going to teach just like they were teaching, and they're going to provide a safe space in their classrooms like they've always been. Nothing in the law prevents them from doing so. For the most part, as long as they aren't talking sex to these children as part of a curriculum, there's really no big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. But there's no violation of the law. That's the big thing. Some good old coffee there. But I just wanted to bring this all up because, I mean, these people are fucking out of their mind, right? They are absolute lunatics. They're absolute lunatics. These are the people who teach your children, right? These are the people who educate the future of this country. These are the people who sit down and have more time with your children than you do through most days. And really think about that. For the most part, more children spend time with their teacher than they do their own parents these days. And these are the people they're spending the most time with. Really think about that. That's why it's so important to make sure these people are not grooming kids by making them used to having conversations about sex as early as kindergarten. That cannot be allowed. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to watch the live show, it is Thursdays at 9 o'clock. Again, that is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't want to wait that long, we got some other awesome content out there. All you got to do is click on this video over to the right, and it will take you right on to the next one. Either way, thanks so much for watching, and we'll be talking again real soon.